Like all this money that they're pouring into these addiction and sober living houses. That's why none of this stuff works long term. It's perfectly fine as long as you're willing to allow that person to continue living in that home forever. But eventually they have to leave that sober living home, and they're not responsible for all the bills and, just the upkeep, the caretaking of the property. They're not responsible for all of those aspects, paying the taxes on the properties, and stuff like that. As long as they've got rules and it's a controlled environment, there's drug testing, stuff like that. But if you take that away from there, they don't do well. They don't do well at all. But yet you've got all this money. Like last night, we was reading all these grants, $11 million worth of grants for these places for educational, and it wasn't even education. Let me take that back. It was like training. Well, we see what they call training. Anybody can put the word training down on a piece of paper or an application and say, well, we're going to train people. You give us that $500,000 and we're going to train these people. Well, you see how well trained people are here in Letcher County. How trained are they in these other counties where these programs are going to be? I think these are very, very valid points and questions, but yet we just keep shoving money at them. How many of these nonprofits are in bad standing? These businesses that are associated. I pulled up Tim Robinson's. There's like 15 different, like Beth's Blessing and all these different names of businesses that they had started and nonprofits that they had started over the last 15 years. And most of them were all in bad standing. Like it showed a very troubled history of business practices. But yet this is who we're going to keep giving all this money to because he's friends with the attorney general. This is who's going to get out of be cleared in this FBI investigation. Well, we sure haven't heard anything about it. And you watch, he will be given every single benefit of the doubt. He'll never serve one night in jail. She'll hurt you with the claws. Bella, hey, get over here. Stop. Post said Jonah should be considered in any settlement. While they attempt to divide their assets, Jonah has been left to fend for himself in abusive programs and was abandoned in Jamaica during the pendency of the divorce when he was a minor under the court's jurisdiction, she said. I mean, could you imagine that, going and adopting some little old kid, some poor kid from Africa, bringing them over here, and then sending them to some camp in Jamaica that's abusing them and neglecting them and just dumping them. Just dumping him. And then we're going to go through our divorce and he can just fend for himself. Well, what's he supposed to do when he leaves that camp? Where's he supposed to go? Where is home now that you and your wife have divorced and have kicked him out of the family? How do you even adopt a child with no plan on, it's all for show? It's because they make such hasty decisions and bad decisions that impact somebody's life. DC, can you tell us what website to look up arrest records in Letcher? You can go to the Letcher County Jail website and look up to see like current people in jail. I'm not really sure about, you just have to Google it. Look for the person that you're looking for and just Google it. I'm not really sure. I don't have a Truth Finder account because I didn't want to pay for it like Kenny Anderson apparently does, or somebody on the fiscal court's got him one. They all decided to do Truth Finder or one of those services and go digging on me, you know. And you know what is really funny? I got to looking at a couple of those mugshots that he put up there. One of them was when I was arrested in Lexington on somebody else's charges. It wasn't even me. It was somebody else. It was another Elizabeth Jones, but Jones was her married name, where it was my maiden name. They had her date of birth and my social security number with my picture and her charges. They had us really badly mixed up. And I was arrested in Lexington on this other girl's charges. They held me in Lexington for a week before Harlan County come and got me. And then Harlan came and picked me up and took me back to their jail. And I sat there for an additional 30 days because nobody would listen to me. Nobody believed me that these were not my charges. I had never been charged with purse snatching a day in my life. And so we go to court, and of course, I have a public defender there with me. And I'm trying to tell him, hey, they've got me, because you don't even talk to him until you walk in there handcuffed and shackled and sit down at the table next to the guy, and court's already started. And so I'm trying to whisper to him, hey, there's been a big mistake. This is not me. And da da da. And he just kept trying to shush me. Just shush, 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 shush. Well, I was so upset and I was so tired of being shushed that I just raised my hand right there in the courtroom. And to the best of my recollection, it would have been Judge Johnson. And he listened to me. He was like, yes, ma'am. And I said, Your Honor, there has been a huge mistake. This is not me. Those are not my charges. And I have been telling anybody and everybody who will listen, and nobody will listen to me. He had them look it up, and within 30 minutes, I was released from Harlan County Jail. But even though the charges were dismissed and I was released, that stuff stayed on my record. I thought that they would just take it off, because it was a mistake. It wasn't nothing that I did. It was not my fault that they got us mixed up. Well, and as I was going out of the jail, I said, I'm going to sue somebody. And Dit was the captain of the Harlan County Jail. She was a woman, and they called her Dit, D-I-T. And she said, well, who are you going to sue? I said, I don't know, but I'm going to sue somebody, because by the time that they had finally released me and listened to me, I had lost my job. I lost my apartment. I lost everything that I had, and I didn't have anybody that could go to my apartment and clean my apartment out. It was really, really a big issue. And so she said, well, there ain't nobody for you to sue. She said, we've all got immunity anyway. And so I didn't even talk to anybody. Nobody would take it. I mean, I had mentioned it to a couple attorneys that I know. They didn't do anything. They didn't offer any assistance whatsoever. So I was led to believe there wasn't nobody to sue. I couldn't file a suit on it. But that was not true. So people need to know what, people need to know what they can do and what they can't.